I'm not telling you to dig a bunker, but like, you never know, dude.
We're just being prepared.
This week I was on TikTok and it was like all over the news. Someone from Congress said that there is a imminent threat that threatens national security and they're trying to get President Biden to declassify it. They declassified it. And what came out was last week, Russia launched a rocket into space and this satellite that they put into space has nuclear capabilities on it.
Cool.
And they're like, oh, they'll take out our satellites and stuff. But they're like, no, actually, they'll...
Can they drop things from space like that?
Sure they can.
Oh my goodness.
But they're saying that they would use it for an EMP attack on America.
Wow.
EMP, that's the...
Electromagnetic pulse.
Cool. Very good.
That would wipe
Where
out...
90% of everyone will die.
No.
No, that's for
Nice,
real.
nice.
The CIA
I'm just trying to
said
laugh
that
through it.
if we lost power, if we had an EMP attack,
Yeah.
he said in 1 year, 90% of Americans would die. You can no longer go to the grocery store to get food.
Yeah.
If you
Your
do, you might
water-
get pirated or knifed.
Yeah, all your tap water and stuff will be turned off because that's controlled by whatever electrical system that the city's
Yeah.
using.
It'd be chaos, dude.
So I'm not telling you to dig a bunker, but like, you never know.
Why are the billionaires now building bunkers inside? Zuckerberg himself built a 5,000 square foot doomsday bunker in his Hawaii compound.
Huh.
So we'll go through it. Peter Thiel has New Zealand citizenship and has said if in the event of the apocalypse, that's where he's going.
Which side of the globe the nuclear holocaust happens on?
Yeah. But like I say, that he's far from the only billionaire living in fear of what they call the event, which is literally a Mitchell and Webb sketch. As you can see, Mark Zuckerberg spent $270 million on a bunker. And that's really weird, isn't it? Like, why are billionaires buying bunkers? What do they think is going to fill me with confidence? And I do get the feeling that these people probably have a bit more inside information than I have. And if you look at the state of the world at the moment, yeah, there's a bit of chaos.
Well, during all of the Davos meetings and the like, they keep calling what's going to happen a polycrisis. They're all in anticipation of 2030 as some kind of inflection point year. They're all saying that in the build up to that, they're going to experience an angrier world.
Yep.
So at best, they might be predicting some civil unrest. At worst, some sort of cataclysmic event like a... Well, I wouldn't suggest that they believe it's going to be a climate-related disaster again if they're building beachfront property, but there you go.
I don't think they're expecting nuclear exchange exactly either. I think they're just expecting systems collapses.
Yeah.
So widespread famine, mass movements of people, lots of, like you say, unrest, violence, invasions, things like that. And it's like, right, great.
Well, nobody has an answer to what comes after the petrodollar, but we all know it's going to end.
Yes. Bunker yourself. This is the South Dakota bunkers. A doomsday community in search of residents to live in its 575 bunkers, which can reportedly fit up to 10,000 people. So you can literally go into a fallout shelter. Your descendants can emerge.
I hope I go in the one where it's one man and 99 women.
I don't know, man. That sounds stressful, to be honest. Got to repopulate the earth. They'll take a massive economic hit, but I don't think the Chinese Communist Party care about that. They are the party of Mao. They did starve to death like 30 million people. I think they're prepared to use that human resource and just be like, not a problem.
Well, they think in terms of century-length plans, whereas we
Exactly.
think in terms of 4-year election cycles.
Exactly. And so,
But also, the leaders which currently occupy the positions of power are not resilient and intelligent enough to adapt to crises when they arise because they know nothing except the post-war liberal rules-based order, and they think it's going to last forever. They think history has ended.
Yeah.
And so what do you do when your global supply chain gets cut off? How do you even repatriate manufacturing?
exactly. You build bunkers.
Yeah.
Because you think the apocalypse is coming, basically. So, okay, great. So they think something's going to happen, which, I mean, you don't spend $270 million on a bunker you don't plan on using, basically. So,
Earth shift. It's real, and it's going to happen. In fact, it's already happening. There are major magnetic pole shifts every 12,000 years called geomagnetic excursions. There are even more minor events on the 6,000-year half cycles. The China event was just confirmed earlier this year. The most well-studied events are the last one, 12,000 years ago, the Gothenburg geomagnetic excursion, and an exceptionally powerful one about 40-something thousand years ago, called Le Champ. It's the same for other events. You can find information on all of them when you search the science journals. This happens very regularly, and it has already started happening again now. The Earth began its magnetic shift in the 1850s, but it has progressed more since the year 2000 than it had in the 150 years or so before. The shift is accelerating and will keep accelerating. These events coincide with major climate shifts in the past, volcanic events, and biosphere stress that results in the extinctions of species. After the scientific field went back and forth on this topic for decades, the conclusive study was performed in the world's #1 geophysics journal. These magnetic excursions take out several species and cause serious stress on the entire food chain, through not only volcanoes and climate shifts, but extra space radiation, navigational issues with birds, mammals, and marine creatures. These shifts can happen very rapidly. In fact, if the next one happened tomorrow, it already wouldn't be the fastest one in history after having been ongoing now for more than 150 years. When it reaches peak acceleration, it will be shifting 100 times faster than today, or more, and we'll just have months left, maybe weeks. This is a story with 1,000 pieces, but they come together to tell a scary future for our planet, and it's told in the rock, sediment, the fossils, and the cooled lava. Let's next address the fact that this event seems to be hitting the whole solar system. Let's further take a step out to the galactic level very quickly. The galaxy has a rippling electric current sheet, just like stars, our sun, and like energized sphere magnets in a lab. In our galaxy, the wave height, the amplitude, and the wavelength have been analyzed, and based on a speed of around 600 to 800 kilometers per second of outward radial flow, they should be hitting our solar system about every 12,000 years. This current sheet contains the galactic magnetic reversal point, not the galactic equator as incorrectly is believed by many. It is this galactic magnetic reversal, expected about every 12,000 years, that is impacting our solar system, and which is the driving force behind the overall 12,000-year disaster cycle of Earth. Up next, what about those changes in the solar system? Well, Venus's fastest winds are now blowing harder and faster, in fact about 33% faster. Studies of Earth have indicated that solar activity, which is modulated by Earth's magnetic field, helps drive wind speeds at all altitudes, so a magnetic change at Venus would certainly explain those winds. Mars has seen more climate change than Earth has, increasing seismic activity, and is even now believed to have an active, alive mantle, when it was long thought to be dead as a whole planet. We have studies on Earth's magnetic field and solar activity related to both long-term climate on Earth and seismic activity, so a magnetic change at Mars would make sense, and a major magnetic change may actually have woken up Mars' mantle, such that the experts were right when they used to think it was dead, and they are right now. Hard to explain all the Mars changes in one stroke, unless it's a planetary magnetic event. Jupiter has had many cloud changes, including to the Great Red Spot, but its most interesting change is in the radio signals coming from its magnetic fields. This is a direct indication that those magnetic fields are changing, which would also explain the cloud anomalies, as on Earth we know that solar and geomagnetic conditions impact the clouds. Saturn's 30-year orbit is eccentric, and every 30 years, at its closest point to the Sun, a superstorm forms in the northern hemisphere due to the increased solar energy input to the system. It just came 10 years early, for the first time in the telescope record. Why? Well, a magnetic shift on Saturn would let more energy from the Sun into that system, the same amount that used to take 10 more years to achieve such a storm. Record auroral activity on Uranus, along with record storm activity, is another indication of a changing magnetic condition. The planetary magnetic fields are what block solar wind from the atmosphere, and a magnetic shift on Uranus would allow more solar plasma and higher auroral activity. Neptune just had a storm reversal, and that's a big deal. Neptune storms follow patterns just like Earth hurricanes follow patterns. Now imagine a hurricane formed off the coast of Florida and shot eastward across the Atlantic and hit Africa. That can't happen, right? Well, it just did on Neptune. And the Neptunian storm's electrical dominance suggests that for it to happen, something electromagnetic has reversed. Lastly, Pluto lost 20% of its atmosphere in less than 2 years, far more than is expected due to freeze-out and Plutonian winter. How does a planet lose its atmosphere so rapidly? Same way Mars did long ago. The magnetic field collapses in a major shift. So that's magnetic shift evidence on all the planets, and yes, we've got it on the Sun as well. There is a noticeable coronal magnetic field shift and a corresponding helium chemistry change. If the galactic magnetic reversal is impacting the entire solar system, we should see those magnetic changes on all the planets and the Sun, and we absolutely do. But the galactic current sheet should also be delivering dust, ions, neutral gases, and impacting the large-scale magnetic fields surrounding the entire solar system. What do you know? Scientists are seeing more interstellar ions than expected. That's one. Scientists are also seeing more energetic neutral hydrogen than expected. That's two. And as is evident in several recent studies, the dust is increasing in the inner solar system. That's three. Scientists are also noticing phenomenal changes in the ibex ribbon, the interstellar magnetic imprint on the outer heliosphere surrounding the solar system. That's 4 for 4 on chemistry and large-scale magnetism, plus the magnetic changes across the solar system planets and the Sun. A solar system shift. That's Earth's history, modern observations, the solar system, and galactic physics, all singing the same song. But wait, if the galactic current sheet is radially moving outward from the galactic center, shouldn't we have seen the closest stars towards the center of the galaxy being impacted? Because of the distance between stars, we can really only look to the closest ones, the Proxima Centauri system and Barnard's star. There is also AD Leo, which is a star about the same distance away from the galactic center that we are, but several light years to the north. All three have had outburst activity at superflare levels or higher. Barnard's star first, as it's furthest away in line. Proxima had record flaring activity after that, and then recently, so did AD Leo. Now, while it would have been nice if we had been using the most modern technologies 60, 80 years ago to see the activity of stars further away, all the ones we have monitored in this way, in the modern era, have done exactly as expected in terms of an uptick, if the galactic sheet had impacted them first, and they did so in the correct order, right at the Sun, and our solar system is next in line. So far, all the stories complement one another, so let's dive deeper into the star outburst idea. One of the recurring pieces of evidence in these cycles is the nova-level isotopes discovered on Earth, those that can only be made in a stellar nova event. And they happen to show up in microtectites and fossils from these 12,000-year disaster cycle events on Earth. But can the galactic current sheet produce a recurring micronova on the Sun? Yes, because there are two ways scientists know how those recurring nova are triggered elsewhere in space. One is a magnetic kick to the star, and the other is to dump material onto the star, an accumulation called accretion. It just so happens that the galactic current sheet, bringing the galactic magnetic reversal, delivers the magnetic kick, and that extra dust, neutrals, and ions coming with the sheet is the material dumped onto the star. Both known methods of making a nova combined into one with the galactic current sheet. After the first ever nova study that actually included magnetic field influence, we know that the isotopes stuck to the dust can't make it out of the nova remnant. So, those here at Earth arriving every 12,000 years have to be from our star. The isotopes tell us what we need in terms of what a star must do. The galactic current sheet brings both known methods in one, and they can't be coming from some other star. The coincidences are really piling up now. And as it turns out, events like the solar micronova at various stars finally fixed the long-standing galactic physics problem. They knew the current sheet existed and extended throughout the galaxy, but their models couldn't resolve how it was sustained at that distance. Well, it just so happens, if you inject nova energy directly into the magnetic system of the galaxy at the current sheet, it gives it the juice to persist and sustain. So, the current sheet triggering stellar outbursts actually fixes galactic physics. Last year, after many years of swearing up and down it wasn't possible, that it wasn't a thing, astronomers have finally admitted that micronova exist. These events recurring at the Sun are not only the only explanation for the Earth isotope evidence, they not only can be triggered two ways by the galactic current sheet, but they are also actually needed to explain our real universe observations of the galaxy. Same story, different fields of science. So let's come back to Earth. Every catastrophist throughout history included the Earth tilting, turning over, and creating massive tsunamis as the oceans slosh around. Einstein and several others agreed that it would be the unlocking of the crust from the mantle that would cause the shift, but they couldn't figure out how. How do you unlock the crust? With modern evidence, we now know that the crust is locked with a thermoelectric equilibrium, and scientists already know the sun's impacts induce electric current into the mantle, right through that crust-mantle boundary. The solar micronova surges enough of that current to disrupt the thermal and electrical aspects of that thermoelectric equilibrium, unlocking the crust. So, the micronova is also needed to finally finish the stories of the catastrophist claims that the Earth tilts, turns, and triggers massive tsunamis. Interestingly, several scientists in Einstein's time also did the math on what would happen if they could unlock the crust. The ice weight at the polar region would want to spin at the equator, the point of greatest centrifugal force, and the greatest bulk of ice happens to want to tilt Earth such that Greenland would end up at the equator, and so would the portion of Antarctica that is south of Australia. This would put the Bay of Bengal in the Indian Ocean and Peru at the north and south poles, which is exactly what was predicted long ago by several other catastrophists who didn't have that ice math from Einstein's time, which is absolutely amazing. But it's not just a two-way coincidence there. The magnetic poles are already moving, as we mentioned, and they are set to meet one another, to collide in the Bay of Bengal, with Peru, of course, being on the opposite side of the planet. If the planet tilts as previously predicted, and as the later math would suggest it will just so happen to put the magnetic poles back at the north and south geographic pole. That's perhaps the greatest coincidence of them all, and yet, just another on our list. The story grows even more interesting when we realize that religious texts and mythological stories say exactly this will happen, from the earth swaying to and fro like a drunkard, to the black sun and days of darkness, which would be caused by the material accumulating on the sun before the micronova, to the great waves and floods and fire and volcanoes and the loss of species. Now, how in the world do those old stories now match the science? Not only the science, but the humanity as well. The culture of us humans today makes the entire world seem like one giant Sodom and Gomorrah. The rise of satanic degeneracy, the loss of traditional moral values. It is exactly as was written. So they predict what modern science predicts, and even down to how humans will behave. Honestly, how many of these coincidences are we supposed to ignore? Well, let's add on another one. It seems the governments and elites are preparing for exactly this. They are acting recklessly because they know there will be no reckoning. They are spending like there's no tomorrow because on a realistic timeline, there isn't one. Governments are digging underground, and elites like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are expanding their options. Bezos is digging out a mountain in the Sierra Diablos right across the street from his Blue Origin launch facility. And Elon Musk has SpaceX and the Boring Company. Celebrities and billionaires are buying doomsday bunkers at a surprising rate. Even Andrew and Tristan Tate are building one in Romania. Folks, most of science is one vector, one line of evidence, and then best estimations or guesses about what it means. This is not most science. It is the same story told by Earth's history, paleoclimatology, paleomagnetism, fossils, sediment, solar system physics, astrophysics, galactic physics, modern observations, math, religion, culture, and the movement of the elites matches up. Don't listen to what they say. Just watch what they do. Speaking of math, current rate of change suggests we have only 10 to 20 years left. So will you acknowledge the mountains of evidence singing the same song? Or will you let the world distract you? Will you let disbelief dissuade you? Your future and your children's future depends on your answer.